Okay, so we're opening the Arc Star map, and we're gonna do a little exploration today. Many people know the first system, Stanton. I think everybody must know that. But many people know the second system, Pyro, because like it's literally been shown to us. And the third system, Nyx. These are like all things that we've seen assets from, but there are going to be two other systems that we can expect probably in the next several years. I hesitate to put any sort of time frame on that. But there is a pretty predictable group of systems we can expect to be the first 5 in the game. So we're going to walk through all of those. That includes Stanton, Pyro, and Nyx, our more boring systems. But we're going to look at some of the more intensive lore, some of the things that they say about the systems themselves, and what their unique factors are. I'm actually going to talk about an extra system or two because I think there is kind of a wild card there with the last system of the 5, but we'll get to that. Give me all of the jokes about how we can't get one system. Why am I looking at 5? Anyways, let's jump into the Arc. The Arcer. Nyx will arrive in 4. Are you still loading? 4.1 or 4.2? A hefty dose of optimism. I'm happy for you. Don't forget the Jethro system, mostly trailers with Drake ships up on blocks in the yard. They got their thrusters stripped. Majority of Pyro and Nyx are complete. There's a ton of stuff completed that is hidden behind a thick NDA wall with employees, but I'll believe it when I see it. We've been saying it for a while. Yeah, they probably have a lot of stuff done on these other systems because they've been working on that stuff. I don't believe they've put much work into Nyx, to be honest. I think they've started with it. We've seen as much evidence, but I just don't think that Nyx is as far along as some people thought that Nyx was coming this year. The more I watch the way they work on these things, the more I realize like there's a lot of pre-production and design talk that goes into this stuff before they actually start working on it. It's pretty easy to think that they're working on a bunch of stuff in parallel, when in reality, it might not be the case. But who knows? Okay, so this is the Arc Star map. These are the, well, stars mapped. This is kind of what all of the star systems that are planned for Star Citizen look like, at least at the beginning of the project. So I guess the first thing to talk about here is that these systems were theorized at a time when the game was not as big as it is. A lot of these systems were just background, essentially skyboxes. Think X4. I'm only using that because I've played it recently. Think something like, I don't know, what they're talking about with Starfield. You could go to these planets, but only in predetermined locations. You couldn't explore the whole planet. You couldn't land on the planet. They didn't have specific gravities or outdoor areas for ground vehicles or mineable deposits or caves or outposts. They might have outposts where you could land, but like the idea was you would have a landing zone. It would take you on rails from space down to that landing zone. You'd do your stuff, and then it would take you on rails from that landing zone back up to space. So when they first came up with all these systems, obviously the amount of content that was in one system was not the same. And this is where that whole 100 systems idea comes from. 100 systems was the plan. Oh my gosh, is there screen tearing in this? That seems odd. 100 systems was the case back during that sort of backdrop skybox kind of thing. Since then, they've still decided, I believe, to stand on the idea that it's still going to be 100 systems. That being said, here are our jump paths between systems. These matter. I say these matter because this is what decides the systems that we're going to, but it's very possible that they decide to completely change the way that these systems connect based on what they want to bring into the game as soon as they want. So everything that I tell you about the 5 systems we expect are based on 2 things. First is their jump points. They all connect to each other, and it's very obvious because they go from the system we're in now to the system where Squadron 42 is, so it kind of makes sense. Second, they've all got a lot of lore attached to them, and we've actually seen them talk about them. So there are reasons to believe that we're going to get these systems, but again, anything can change. These are not guaranteed to be the first 5 systems. Now, the one we know about best is Stanton, here. And you can see that Stanton has 3 jump points, 1 to Pyro, 1 to Terra, and 1 to Magnus. We'll be talking about those later, but let's jump into Pyro real quick. Okay, so this is Stanton. We know it well. Got R-Corp, Hurston, Crusader, Microtech way out here. You got your 3 jump points, 1, 2, 3, and then you got your air and halo belt. Oh, okay, bye, Stanton. You got your air and halo belt, which is kind of a thing in game, but not in the sense, not how it's supposed to be based on lore. Not much to say about Stanton because we know so much about it already, but the interesting thing you can look at using this map is you can see what the planned idea of the demographics of the system are. So we can see a population map, which is kind of what you would expect. You can also kind of tell that Crusader is the most populated area. Not sure if that's just because they've added all the space stations here. There's economy, which again, you can kind of see that Crusader is more bright than the other areas, but generally it's focused around the planets. And then there's crime. And crime's the most interesting to me because you can kind of see how like the areas where crimes are committed trails off, getting away from planets, but you can still see how it's obviously following the jump point to Crusader. You can see this really faint one here is following the jump point to Terra. And they kind of, this one is weird. It curves with the orbit of the system between Crusader and Hurston. So that's that. I don't think this is super reliable, so I'm not going to talk that much about it. This is just part of what they did with the map. All of this will change as they see the gameplay needs to stay fit. But jumping into the Stanton system's lore, you can see that it was discovered in 2851, so it's a pretty new system. It's surprisingly new, considering our corp is a planet covered by a city. But we've talked that one to death. Let's see. Is there anything else interesting in Stanton that we need to know about? Ooh, Bear Comet. This is, okay, this is fun. There's nothing on it. Let's do a little bit of research real quick and see if there's anything actually on that. We got the Saber Comet. That's a ship. I don't see anything else about that. I'm actually working on a video for supporters. If you are a Twitch supporter, YouTube channel member, or Patreon member, you get exclusive videos every month. But for this month, for the October video, I am working on a video that's taking like a deep dive into everything that we know about what exploration gameplay will be. Long distance, short distance, mid distance, what we're looking for, how we'll look for it, when it might happen. Comets are one of the things I mentioned in there, because I think comets could be incredibly useful for exploration in this game. I think being able to have comets come in and out of systems will give us a temporary, interesting location that people can go to for certain things. Call it missions, call it an outpost, call it mining opportunities, call it other types of resources. But if you have comets that come into the system, maybe they fly through the system for 3 months and then they're gone for a year, then suddenly people have something for long-term players can come back for the comet to see it. Short-term players can route their path to the comet to decide when exactly they'd want to see it in the system. And newcomers have something amazing that they can see while they're playing the game and know that they could go out there, but maybe not if they're interested. And I feel like this would be so cool, because it's not just like it popped into existence. You could be that person that wants to go see the comet when it's way out outside the system, and maybe they could make that a possibility. An expedition that takes 3 months for somebody to go see the comet when it's way out there, or you could be somebody who wants to see it when it's flying past one of your favorite planets. Like, I feel like the opportunities with comets would be great, so I really do hope that's something they focus on for exploration, but that has nothing to do with Stanton. So we'll move on. Let's move on to Pyro. So Pyro is connected to Stanton. There it is. And it's actually, you look at these different icons that label each system, you can see that a lot of them are blue. Blue is UEE. So this, as you can tell, is kind of UEE space. We got a massive cluster of blue systems that come in and out when we click that button. I'm going to get rid of Banu, Vandul, Xi'an real quick and take a look at within this UEE space, how many of these systems are unclaimed or developing? Because this is super key. A lot of the complaints that you hear people say about exploration is that, well, all of the systems are completely discovered. All of the systems have been mapped out, and everybody knows where the resources and the planets and all that stuff are. But like, these are important systems, these unclaimed systems. These are not far away from us. right? Pyro falls in this list. But these are systems that are absolutely not mapped out, have absolutely not been fully discovered or surveyed. Plenty of reasons that people wouldn't have gone to all of these locations and found all of the stuff in them. So when you're thinking about exploration, even if you're not on the mindset of just finding resources for other players, which I think is what most exploration is going to be, you can still rest assured that even in places like Stanton, it's like the commercial center of the whole of humanity, has secrets that you can find. Bennyhenge, that campfire thing under the building, just different little things. These systems are going to be just devoid of large clusters of people and have a lot of stuff to go find. You don't always have to find something the first time, right? Exploration is still cool, even if you're the 100th person to come across it. You take somebody out to go see Bennyhenge, they're not going to be like, f this game. Everybody else has seen this already. So I've seen a lot of it's like hesitation when thinking about exploration. I think people are maybe forgetting how much more of exploration there is than just that kind of big flashy stuff. Okay, so this is Pyro. Like I said, it is an unclaimed system, which means there's no real governmental faction there, but there are plenty of jump points from it. Isn't there more than... It's just 2, actually. I thought there was more than 2. I thought there was like 4 or 5 jump points. There are. Okay, they're just not being labeled for some reason. Hold on, let me... Oh, it's because I turned off the other systems. There we go. Okay. Now you can see all the jump points. So Pyro is a very important system. It's kind of surprising that it hasn't been taken over just because of how many places it has jump points to. I mean, you're connecting from Pyro to Stanton, Castra, looks like Terra, Hadrian, Oso, Nyx, and Cano. Like 3 of those systems are very highly populated. And I would say 6 of them have something going on. So Pyro is an important system. Not a great place for a pirate hotspot because obviously they can go a lot of places, but it's also huge. So if I zoom all the way out, you can kind of see that Pyro, I think Pyro is about 13 to 15 AU wide, whereas Stanton is 3, I believe it is, or 5. Pyro is, at least as far as lore goes, about 3 times the size of Stanton. It's got a lot going on. It's got 6 planets. The 5th planet has, I think, 6 moons or so. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 moons, 6 planets. We've also got asteroid cluster here. We've got the 6 jump points and a lot of empty space. Pyro's busy, but it's also huge. It's going to take a while to get anywhere. You're going to run out of fuel. The Stanton jump point is, I mean, again, all of this could and probably will change, but look at how far the Stanton jump point is from the main landing zone in the system. Literally the opposite side. Granted, if it orbits, it'll be over here. But like, if everything remains the same, this is such a far jump. This would be, I don't know, at least 30 minutes, I want to say, given the speeds we currently go. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for, especially with persistence being in the game, creating pockets of our own activity in Pyro. Pirate orgs can probably bring ships out there, whether that be something like a Kraken, not saying we're getting that anytime soon, but they'll be able to bring ships out there and literally just make that their home. And smugglers or people who they are friends with who also are into kind of criminal activity, they could get paid jobs to run cargo out there and just make sure there's always like food, weapons, components, and stuff that they need. Pyro as a system, I think, gives us our first real taste of what Star Citizen's gameplay could be like. Stanton has been training wheels, and very basic understanding of the game. Pyro is like the first time we're getting a system that's built on the actual idea of this game rather than what they expected it to be, which was Stanton. So I don't know how it will be. Maybe nobody will camp out in the Pyro system, but they brought in refueling last year because it's going to be important for Pyro. We can see that there's a ton of space here. It's a very dangerous place, so you're not going to really have that much opportunity to find safe landing areas. And it's overall just a lot different system. Like I said, 6 planets to explore. We've only had technically 2 that you can explore right now. It is Microtech and Hurston. Can't land on R-Corp anywhere. You can't land on Crusader anywhere. So this is a massive expansion of the game space. I have no idea what's going to happen with Pyro. It's interesting. It's a weird idea. I mean, the way that it's changed from being a pirate haven to kind of just this frontier location is a little bit weird. We'll see how they handle it, though. Let's look at the lore for it real quick. So it's this is old lore. Desolate, lifeless star system crippled by prolonged nova phase. It is home of a pirate outpost ruined station. System was first visited in 2493, so this is much older than Stanton. 44 years after the first traveler suspected something was there. Oh, sorry, that was bad reading on my part. Pyro's sun went into a prolonged nova phase long before mankind reached for the stars, and little is known for the original makeup of the system. 6 burned out planets remain, obviously retconned, none of which are capable of supporting life. Every planet in the system is at some level of decay, also retcon. Any improperly shielded spacecraft will sustain residual damage from Pyro's star while making transit through the system. That also might be retcon. We do know that there's going to be solar bursts, but we don't know if they're always going to be affecting you or only in a certain area or what. Was there anything else about Pyro I wanted to touch on before we moved on to the next system? Oh, the Lagrange points. That's right. So I think there was some news recently that came out about the space stations in Pyro. That the planets will have systems at their Lagrange points. So let's think about that for a second. How many are there in... Each planet has what? 4 Lagrange points? 4 to 5. 5 Lagrange points. Okay, so that means that Stanton has 20 then, give or take. 20 Lagrange points. Pyro then would have, holy crap, 30? I feel like whatever news came out said it was less than that. I thought it was like 18 or something. Either way, though, it's pretty clear that Pyro is also going to have Lagrange point space stations. What is not clear is how those will differ from Stanton, because they will. We know that they're going to be fairly decrepit, derelict, unused, abandoned, but also resettled by pirates. So they won't necessarily be the safest place. Some of them might not even be useful. We can actually look at what they have in mind for these systems, and they don't look pretty. They look like the kind of place that you don't necessarily want to go. Like, this is the interior. This is all very early in development. You know, they haven't done all the art stuff, but like you can see the vibe is just not super... Hey, it's Todd Pappy. Not super put together. The insides of the space stations are very ramshackled and just not looking very good. The exterior of the space stations are very kind of in disarray, disrepair, barely being used for stuff. So these stations aren't the same as what we have in Stanton. They won't be as easy to find, as easy to get to, or as useful because A, you might have to have a certain reputation with the gangs that run in that area to even use the services, or maybe to get better prices with those services. And B, Pyro is massive. Even if there were the same amount of stations as Stanton has in Pyro, they're going to be spread out much, much more widely. So I think we should also just kind of wait a little bit to see what else they're going to say about these space stations before worrying about the number of them. Didn't mention anything about the warring gang factions. I expect that to be part of Pyro when it releases, and reputation determining where you can go and can't go. Yeah, that's a good point. So I kind of just was talking about that. Pyro is home to like 12 different gangs. There is a vast amount of infighting in Pyro. It's part of the lore, and it has actually been the defining cause for the state of Ruin Station. So Ruin Station here, which frustratingly to me seems like it has changed its look, is the main landing zone in Pyro. It'll be your equivalent to your Port Olisar, your Orison, your New Babbage, that kind of thing. But it's all one space station. And we have some footage of it. We've seen it in action at this point. I didn't want to believe this was Ruin Station, but I think they've focused on it enough, and I've heard enough people say it, that I'm just going to go along with them and spout the same nonsense. Hopefully it's not wrong. But this is kind of what it looks like. So this is the station. You can see it's massive. This is a javelin. We all know how big javelins are. Even next to the stations in Stanton, the javelin... Oh, okay. It's not... It's kind of similar. You can tell that Ruin Station is bigger than the stations that we are already seeing. Because the javelin, I don't think, looks that small next to it. But it could just be perspective. But this is going to be the main area for the system. And it's always being warred over and trying to be controlled by different factions. Right now, it's controlled by Xenothreat. That's why we see them in so much power. That's why they are so bold to come into Stanton. But throughout the course of the game, for all we know, that will change. A new gang will come into power. New gangs will form. And overall, we have to keep in mind that that's a thing in Pyro as opposed to Stanton, where you can just go anywhere you want. Say hi to the security, they have no problem with you. Say hi to the annoying people at the outposts that are always very rude. They have no problem with you, except for that they're rude. But in Pyro, it's possible that the gangs won't let you go certain places or use certain things. You might not be feeling very safe landing on Pyro 1 or Pyro 3 or using the space station that is Pyro 5's Lagrange point because a certain gang knows that you ran a mission against them for Miles Eckhart 5 weeks ago and they don't like you. So that's what I was saying earlier when I was saying that's where I hope this gameplay differentiates in Pyro. That's the potential that they have. The reputation system, the faction system, and those gangs in general, I think are the most important. And honestly, it's the least that they've talked about. So our hopes are that they've just been building it up and working on it and want to give us a surprise. It's all boring because everything you see that they announced, you already know that you will have to wait like 6 years to really play it. You know, people keep saying this, and I feel like we're not playing the same game. Like this is the easiest one. Honestly, what is it? I think this is the easiest way to put a pin in that because you keep seeing people talking about how they don't deliver locations. Somebody said we weren't going to see underground bunkers for years because they don't get concept art stuff into the game. Does anybody remember when we saw this? So this was concept art that we got for the for Ruins, for derelict outposts, and as you can see here in the file name, it is a derelict planet outposts of Days Gone, Days Sun 2022. This is concept art that we were shown in 2022. This was the first time we ever saw derelict outposts. Those ruins aren't in the game, but they are? Not these exact ruins, but ruins, derelict outposts are definitely in the game. I mean, this is literally, they said they were taking the kits of the colonialism outposts, and turning them into assets that we could use for white box. Now those assets are being put into the game. I mean, it's not concrete per se, but these are very clearly derived from that concept art. And this was 4 months. This is June 2022. So the idea that they're going to take 6 years to get this stuff in, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hearing that. It's like they work on things to represent at least the stuff that they're showing in concept art. Maybe it's not the exact material that they use, the concrete, but they're definitely derelict outposts. Anyways, where's our next system? Nyx. Where's our Nyx system? Get it? But seriously, where is it? There it is. Another unclaimed system. Actually, first, let's look at its jump points. So it's got, looks like 5 jump points. 6 jump points. Little octopus. That's not a... Octopuses don't have 6 legs. Stupid. One's going to Tohill. One's going to Odin. One is going to Bremen, as we've seen fans of in chat. Pyro, Castra. So, again, another system with a lot of jump points and some interesting systems it's connected to. CIG is planning on building a semi-alive economy. It's not player run. It's going to be about 90% AI run, but players will be able to have an impact on it. So for every 1 player in the game, there will be 9 simulated AI. Not NPCs, but AI that are running throughout the game, transporting goods, buying things, creating things, building things. Show you a little example of that real quick here. This is what it conceptually looks like. Each of these points would be an AI who's... let me show you something better. So you could see here they have got a factory on Delamar. It shows how many workers are there. It shows what the factory is putting out in terms of paying those workers. It shows how much the price of aluminum is for them to buy. It shows the inventory based on what they're making out of that aluminum. And those kinds of things will be traded back and forth between different planets, moons, outposts, economic nodes, as they call them. And we'll continue to simulate the environment around us while we play. Here's another kind of more clear look. You can see that over time, the food prices at Port Olisar are going up. The volume has dropped. Therefore, obviously, you can ship to Port Olisar and make more money. And as they simulate this kind of stuff throughout each system, you'll be able to pick up jobs and work jobs and do different things to make more money based on how the economy is flowing. But it's not 100% player run. This would make a PvE piracy loop. There will definitely be PvE piracy loops. In fact, when they were showing this whole system off, I don't know if I have a clip of this. I do. Look at that. They did show a pirate group simulated within one of the trade lanes, disrupting the flow between 2 major ports. Let's see if they zoom out and show it here. I don't think they're going to. Maybe this one. No. No. I don't think I have a clip of them actually showing. Here we go. So this is, you can see that there's a trade lane here. NPCs, or AI rather, are going back and forth with their goods. Green are haulers, blue are security, red are pirates. And you can see that the pirates have themselves a Kraken out here, which they use as a home base, as a space station. And they basically are just running interdictions, extorting people on the trade lanes, hauling and trying to make money, while security is also here swarming the area and trying to block them out. And this would essentially, you can see there's Ninetails here, there's Novaritas here, there's the Dusters here, and Lowriders here. These are all gangs that have all stationed themselves in Stanton on trade lanes to try and make money. And this would essentially be what creates that PvE pirate loop. Eventually, as Aaron said. Okay. But anyways, the Nyx system. Thanks for getting so off topic, Space Tomato. All right. So Nyx system is also a very big one. I don't actually know how big it is. 39 AU. Compared to, again, 5 in Stanton. 1/8 of the size. Again, this could be retconned. It could be made smaller. We don't really know. But the Nyx system has a really interesting history. I'll let you in on a little description here. So Nyx was discovered in 2582, again, much before Stanton, during the height of the newly formed United Empire of Earth's territorial expansion. The system consists of 3 unremarkable planets circling an F-type main sequence star. Astronomically, the most distinct aspect of Nyx is that it is located directly on the border of a dark nebula, which enshrouds the orbits of all 3 worlds. The nebula gases severely hamper visibility and significantly limit scanner use, something the star uses few inhabitants rely on. Something the star system's few inhabitants rely on. The system was first charted through a jump point in the Bremen system by solo nav jumper Carla Larry. Carla's official claim doesn't specify much of an interest in the system, writing that it lacks significant mineral deposits or logical reason to apply the expense of terraformation. Larry did make an attempt to formally name the star's 3 worlds Lou, Morgan, and Ashley, apparently after 3 separate romantic conquests. Imagine if you get married to one of those people and you have to explain why you named a couple planets after somebody else. That's an interesting way to name them. As per normal policy, the UEE government said, no, we don't like that. No. The UEE government has never recognized these names, and they have never been widely used. Whether the system's intrepid discoverer was able to impress any of their namesakes is lost to history. Couldn't even get in the history books. In the last 2 centuries, Nyx has gained some additional utility as a waypoint on the Castra to Stanton run. The Castra to Stanton run. Interesting that they would mention those 2 systems, almost like they're both important. With a significant credit value of cargo moving through the system at any one time. Small-scale piracy is not uncommon, buoyed by the system's nebula, and travelers are warned not to veer off the standard space lanes during transit of the system. Again, this is an interesting sounding system, not just because of the nebula, but also because of these freaking award-winning planet names. I feel like there's going to be something here. Like, I think this is going to be something that you gotta be able to bring this up in some mission, right? Say this to somebody in game and get some like, look at you. But anyways, 3 planets, 3 official planets, but Nyx is, or rather Delamar is not a planet, and that's what we know best. Delamar is an asteroid. So you can see here you've got Nyx 1, Nyx 2, and then way out here you got Nyx 3. But if you zoom into the asteroid belt, Delamar. Hello. Hello, old friend. I've got a couple pictures of Delamar for those who haven't seen it. This is concept art, but the idea of Delamar is that it is a massive asteroid. Huge asteroid. It looks like a moon. Fun fact, it was so small that when it came into the game, players were actually able to use orbital mechanics to get their ship into orbit and turn it off and just fly around the asteroid with no power. It was really cool. It's like the one time I've ever seen orbital mechanics like legitimately work in this game. It was very cool to see. But it's got a giant mining pit, and that was actually in game. Most of the city is underground in tunnels and caverns. And the people who live there are not of the UEE. They're actually not rebels. They're not against the UEE, but they live outside of the jurisdiction, and they make sure that you know. There has been some not great stuff happening between the people of the Nyx system and the UEE, so we don't like their bunch. They've got a little bazaar, which you can go check out, where they're selling stuff. It's pretty cool. It doesn't look like this in game. Don't know if I have a picture of that. But it's a cool place. A lot of people loved it. It was very laggy. It had a lot of problems. It's going to be rebuilt, obviously, for the new version of Nyx. But it's there. And it is a 4th place that people can go. But besides Delamar, Nyx also still has 3 other planets. A big asteroid belt here, Glacium Ring, and the larger Keeger asteroid belt. So this is a not as empty a system as some people would like you to believe. There's quite a bit that could be going on here, and a lot of potential for them to add new gameplay into the Nyx system that they didn't get for Stanton and Pyro, and I'm sure, knowing CIG, they'll want to do that. That being said, it seems like this is mainly a useful system when it comes to trade lanes, going in between other popular systems like Castra and Stanton, and getting away from the UEE. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting missions to take here because of that whole... It's not quite piracy like Pyro is, but it's also not quite rule of law like Stanton. You know, it's going to be a middle ground kind of. Stanton has got a very high security presence, a lot of corporations. Pyro is going to be frontier, not many people. Nyx is going to be able to handle this really nice middle ground for people who are looking for a little more interesting of a lifestyle, but also maybe some level of protection and confidence that you're not just going to get blown up at any second. So Nyx could be a great place for people to call home if you're sick of Stanton. They're aging space hippies. Absolutely. Smoking that widow. I don't know. What's space weed called in this game? Smoking widow and spray painting stuff and not wearing clothes. Hippies wear clothes. Bright clothes. If the salvage mechanic is going to be a thing, then ships won't get blown up so much, and people will probably spend more time out salvaging wrecks. That's a big one, Visaris. Yeah. And like, people are really worried about dying, but again, with the salvage mechanic comes the damage maps, comes eventually armor, comes eventually disabling the ships and stealing components. Blowing up ships won't really be a popular thing that much anymore. I hope they ratchet up the consequences for killing somebody or completely destroying a ship so that everybody just wants to disable ships. Nyx is a lot done already, and that means Pyro, once it's done, will get them close to 3. I don't know. I'm going to show you guys everything that we have seen on Nyx so far. This was the first little bit we started to see about Nyx. These were hype maps. This was in August of 2021. They were just showing us kind of basic hype maps of how they wanted to make the planets have a little bit of a different feel, geologically speaking. In that same month, we also got to see new rock textures that they were working on that I'm guessing went into all the other systems, but they did specifically mention Nyx when they were reviewing this stuff, talking about it. It's just rock textures, not really much. And then they also that month showed us flora that they were planning for Nyx, or building for Nyx, I guess. Super interesting, super exciting. The basics they've shown us, and then finally a little bit further along art. These were supposed to be planetary surfaces that they were putting together for Nyx to give it a little bit more of a interesting vibe. And like, this is something, but it's not much. It's not enough to convince me that they've done a lot of work on Nyx. At least we know that like the planets maybe will be done within, I would say, a year. If this was a year ago, then maybe if they've started working on Nyx again. In fact, we can go to the development roadmap and see what they're saying about it. There's going to be way lot more than 5 systems in 5 years. Max, I hope that you are right. Great tomato on the wall. Please let Max be right. Thank you. I'm having fun. This is a fun conversation. I love talking about stuff that doesn't exist. Super exciting. It actually is, though. I mean, I'm kind of being a little sarcastic, but it is exciting. Just want Stanton to be reliable, that's all. Hey, I'm with you, Junior. The nice part about all this is how big the company is at this point. So like, we could spend all day talking about how much work they're doing to get Pyro working. But in the meantime, we could also look like the AI content team, the actor tech team, the EU gameplay team, the engine team, all of these teams, game services, gameplay story, graphics team, lighting team, live mission, locations, narrative, network. All of these teams are still working on Stanton. A lot of times we forget, or we look at the stuff that they're planning and talking about and think, hey, stop working on that, do the other stuff. But it helps to come onto this page and actually click in here, look at something that you're interested in, and see who's working on it, what teams are working on it, When is their work scheduled? What else are they working on? Are they getting distracted by something dumb that like doesn't need to be handled instead of doing this? This, I think, would add a lot of peace to people. Granted, this isn't super reliable. I don't think you should depend on this to know when things are coming, but it at least adds some context and understanding. Next system after Pyro is Nyx. That's what we are going over right now. And we're about to move on to the next one. Just want to make sure we covered all of this. So this was Delamar. Again, if you never got to see it, it's this like spherical asteroid that's supposed to be sitting in an asteroid field. And it has like the nebula that they mentioned all around it. And this was the first thing we ever landed on in Star Citizen. This was how they introduced Planet Tech, and that's why some people know about it, have pictures of it, have been there, because it was the only place we could land for a while. And actually, this is great. Let's take this round circle and go back to the whole comet conversation. So the idea of having comets that only show up for a certain amount of time that people will go and see and then talk about and share, and like other people have questions about, Levski's a perfect example of it. You make a place, make it so people can go there, make it so it disappears for a little while, pictures being shared, videos being shared, people are talking about it, people want to see it, it builds up anticipation, then bring it back in a year. Change it just a little bit. Like that is such a gold pot for exploration. If I was making a game, that's all it would be about. Just go into a comet. That's it. Nothing on the comet, nothing to do, no characters, no dialogue, barely any graphics, just a black and white thing, but you just fly to a comet, fly back. Game of the year. All right, so looking at the way that these systems have been developing, let's take a step back real quick and go to Stanton. We started our journey in the Stanton system. Couple little Stantonites, Stantonians, Stantinians. Any other names for Stanton people? The Stantonese. That's a pretty good one. And we made a journey to Pyro. Peekaboo. From there, we moved on to Nyx. So we got a little bit of a path going here. Let's see. Nyx, Pyro, Stanton. We follow that path, and it takes us on a really, really obvious course. Straight line to Odin. Standafistan? Stantonistan. Stantasians. Staninish. But it draws a really clear path to Odin, a system we've been talking about a lot. And just to give you all an idea of how far along Odin is at this point, so we can check this out, and everything that's happening here. Now, this obviously could have been made for a single player environment, so it might not have all of the optimizations and important things that you would expect in a system like Stanton or Pyro, but this is the Odin system. It was running in game, in the engine, with actual gameplay going on. We don't know how much of this was just kind of thrown together, but at the very least, all this has to be completed. All of this has to exist for Squadron 42 to exist. So we know that they have had to work very hard on this system over the last few years.
Agent Trejo, this is Colt. You copy? I hope we're not too late.
All right, spoilers. The whole idea of flying a spaceship talking to Mark Hamill is so interesting. Who would have thought? Okay, so this is the Odin system. Most important thing to know about this system is what I already said. It's needed for Squadron 42. It's a really, really important asset. This is probably the most important star system in the game right now. And I don't think it's on the progress tracker. No, they don't talk about it. We don't talk about that here. It's the first rule of Odin. Don't talk about Odin. So it'll most likely, as somebody as Derpiest Turtle said, launch alongside or after Stanton. I imagine while the system itself will be completed for Stanton, there's going to be a ton of stuff that still needs to be done for the persistent universe, talking about things like your factions, your law system, your points of interest that wouldn't normally be able to need to be spawned in for the campaign. Stuff like that will definitely be necessary. So I think it'll take some time, but this is another system that we know for sure is being worked on and has been for a while. It's connected to Nyx, which means it's kind of obvious that it's also planned for Star Citizen fairly shortly after that. And it's got some lore to it, so let's look into that. Okay, the Odin system was first discovered in 2532 as one of the first star systems reached during humanity's initial extrasolar expansion. Sounds like a game. Sometime in the past, the system was home to multiple vibrant ecosystems similar to Earth or Terra. However, when Odin's star entered its red giant phase, its expansion enveloped the system's first planet and quickly boiled off the biospheres of the others, killing all native life before the star collapsed into a white dwarf. When Earth's first explorers jumped to Odin, they found a system of icy rock worlds with uniformly foreboding exteriors. With no strong terraforming candidates, the system was dedicated to industrial development. Various mining outposts and refineries were established throughout Odin to take advantage of what resources could be found. However, as easily harvestable materials dwindled, Odin's economy slowed to a crawl, and businesses left the system, allowing criminal elements to move in to take their place. Ah, those criminal elements. So good at moving in places. I need their help. I hate moving. Need to call on the criminal elements to help me get all my boxes and stuff into the new house. Odin most recently became a cause célèbre of the... Is that how you say that word? Célèbre? Célèbre? I don't know. English is weird. That's not an English word, huh? Of the scientific community, when a group of noted archaeologists revealed that the government was allowing companies like Bering to wipe clean an otherwise well-preserved fossil record that could tell the story of the life that came to evolve in the Odin system. While a grassroots Save the Fossils movement initially gained some traction in popular culture, interest soon failed. You guys think that might be... I always see the this kind of stuff in the lore, and I wonder, is that going to be in game? Kind of like the names of the systems in Nyx. Are we going to be able to maybe, as an explorer, find fossils? Are they hinting at that? Was that a thing? You never really know. Granted, this came out a while ago, I think. I would only expect lore stuff in the past few years to be included, but still, it's interesting to note that. Today, the Odin system is seen as an unsavory place on the decline, very, very no umami. Only a few settlements populate Odin's planets and moons, but the system still holds appeal for some due to the valuable minerals that can be found in the coil. The coil. I don't have any like fancy danger music. My sound bites aren't working, so I can't do anything fun for that. But just imagine the coil and like some like what's the name of that show? Now I can't even make the joke because I can't remember. The Twilight Zone. Dang it. Some Twilight Zone music starts playing. That's what I need on here. Anyways, the remains of Odin's first planet that hide the system's largest source of untapped resources, known as the coil. For those who choose to brave the constant electromagnetic storms and well-armed pirates lurking within. Why don't we take a look at the coil? Okay. So first, I should have a video here that actually shows the stuff anyways. So this is the Odin system. I really hope this isn't copywritten music or something. This is the coil. This is the thing that they were just describing. If anybody is worried, this will show some spoilers, very, very minor spoilers, nothing story related. This is all just assets. So that's what it looks like from the outside, I believe. An incredible looking asset, and probably going to be the most interesting thing in the game when it does come in. Because Pyro, Stanton, Nyx, they don't have something this big. Very cool. Oh yeah, this is not a leaked video. This is official from RSI. Or CIG. Whatever you want to call them. So there is the planet that they mentioned was cracked in half. I believe they said that was Odin. Yeah, this is Odin 1 turned into the coil. Yeah. Nizra got it. Freaking crazy. This is so cool. Yo, check it out. Check it out. That's the first time we ever got to see Grabby Hands in like the new version of Grabby Hands. They did it in this trailer and then just dropped it. Didn't show us anything on it until CitizenCon this year. 3 years later. I love that. I love how these little like handrails on the walkway pop up to the sound, to the song. Pretty freaking cool. Yo, is this an asteroid or a planet? Is that thing there's no way this thing is just floating in actual gravity. I wonder how much gravity is on this thing. Cause holy crap, that's huge. But also there's something above. What is going on here? Oh, that's coming out of the ship. Okay. Or the station, whatever it is. It's an interesting shot. So yeah, this is Odin. That's just some of the assets they had, but this is all the way back in 2019. So like that is another system that I think we can count on maybe being ready in the next few years. So that's 3 systems that we're accounted for, that we know for a fact that we've seen with our own eyes are being worked on. Bring back the star map music. Made me feel good. The Odin system is cool. We have some exploration possibilities. We've got the coil, obviously offering a huge amount of both exploration, mining, and what's it called? Escort possibilities, combat people, militias, things like that. And you can actually see that kind of here. So this is them entering kind of an asteroid in the coil. You can see how they have like dangerous areas with a lot of VFX and SFX and all this stuff to make it a more interesting and volatile environment. And then we will, from here, get to see a reclaimer kind of salvaging a ship, but putting that idea in our head that this is a place where there's a lot of really valuable resources that people are going to want to go to and see. And you'll run into that when you're out here. So obviously, like Turtle is saying in chat, pirates are going to love the coil. Yo, Starfarer looks dope in that color.
Come in, Navy pilots. This is Captain Donna Tar of the salvage at Valladonna.
Salvagers. Great.
We hear you, Captain. Go ahead.
Pursuant of the UEE's salvage rights laws, I am hereby informing you that we found this wreck in good faith. Survivors were moving properly.
That's great, Captain. But all we need to know is if you picked up any signs of a second Starfarer in the debris.
Okay, but I just want to make it 100% clear that this is legitimate salvage. I know what it means when officials come around. All of a sudden, clearing a wreck becomes stealing evidence and interfering with an official investigation.
They are interfering. We're just looking for help.
Of course. There is actually a long tradition of salvagers.
Listen, do you know anything about a second Starfarer or not?
Hold on, let me check. We haven't seen anything in our sweeps, and all the black boxes were fried when we got here. We weren't able to extract any data.
Yeah, it was a long shot.
Liars.
And are we all
They're liars.
We got a lot left to collect, and it's not really smart for us to linger this close to the coil.
We're good.
I love that part where the person playing almost ran into the reclaimer.
It's not really smart for us to linger this
Oh crap. That's totally me. Don't let me demo your game, because that'll be me. So anyways, that's just a little bit of a look into the Odin system. From here, though, things get interesting. Let's take a little step back to the systems. So we had Where were we? We had Stanton up here. I'm lost. There it is. Stanton, Pyro, Nyx, Odin. Now things start to get less sure. We've been going off of everything that we ourselves have seen up until now, in terms of what we expect the first 5 systems to be. But from here, there's not really much clue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, let's see, how many systems is this? Stanton, Pyro, Nyx, Odin. Oh, that was 4 systems, not 3. I'm dumb. I'm going to show you 2 different possibilities for the 5th system, with one of them likely being one of them is much more likely choice. So this prediction is based on the fact that if we look at where these other systems are meeting, Stanton goes to Pyro, Magnus, and Terra. Pyro goes to Terra. Nyx goes to Castra. I guess Magnus doesn't really matter at this point, but we've got a couple of very crucial connections there that connect to multiple systems. Castra goes to both Pyro and Nyx. Terra goes to both Stanton and Pyro. Both of those are important systems too, because they've both had some form of important development in the game's lore, and they've also had some marketing, I'll say. I won't say development, but marketing. All of them have concept art. And this is a point that was made, I think, pretty intelligently, smartly, by Paul, Astropub. He is the best for this kind of stuff. And he made a really good point that a lot of the places that have concept art are likely more easy for them to get started with. So just going off of that idea, we have the city that is in Castra on Cascombe already in concept art. And it's got a pretty decent amount of concept art going for it. It is a military city with a history. It has a military outpost on top of these mountains that was used at some point, but was eventually made into kind of just a city. And it's got a really big history. So there's actually a lot of resources for us to already see when it comes to Cold Castra with its big freaking star. So here we've got, looks like 3 planets, I'm sorry. 2 planets. Castra 1 and Castra 2, known as Cascom. And not really much else going on in the system. We don't see any asteroid belts. We don't see any asteroid clusters. There's no like nebulas, but it does have a decent amount of jump points. That being said, let's look at the lore for it. The history of the Castra system might be as close to a mirror of humanity's relationship with the Xion as you can find. Discovered in 2544, only 14 years after our first encounter with the Xion, Castra was terraformed for military use. As tensions with the Xion relaxed, so did the mission's presence, military's presence in the system. Today, Castra is primarily a trading hub, though certain areas have stayed under military control and ready for action at a moment's notice. Sounds like you got a lot of potential military quests there. This would also be the first system that is like officially the UEE system. They have a strong presence there. Stanton, yeah, they have a presence, but most of that stuff is controlled by the corporations. This would be the first one that's really a UEE thing. And both Castra and Terra, those 2 different possibilities, would fit into that role. So we have an unclaimed system. We have 2 unclaimed systems with Odin and Nyx. We have a lawful corporate system in Stanton. We have a frontier system in Pyro. Either Castra or Terra could be our new lawful system that is owned by the UEE. It was part of the Perry line, which was a pretty important a set of systems that kind of delineated the separation between humans and Xion back when we were at war with them, or at least our Cold War, I guess you could call it. Decades later, when the jump point was from Castra into Xion territory was discovered, the system was thrust into the front lines of the conflict. So it became that afterward. As government funding flooded the system to improve its defensive fortifications and military infrastructure, it quickly changed from a mere staging post into a focal point of the Xion Cold War. A large orbital platform was even built to support capital ships and long-range bombers. So maybe we'll see a bigger space station there. When the Messer regime fell, the UEE tried to ease tensions with the Xi'an. In 2789, in a show of good faith, the UEE reduced their military footprint and, for the first time after 2 centuries of strict control, permitted the public to move into the system. The decision was and still is for some a controversial one. A hawkish minority of military bureaucrats and political elites believe the system best serves the Empire as a dedicated military outpost. Upon its conversion, businesses arrived in droves to take advantage of the system's exceptional infrastructure and affordable real estate. At this point, that makes Castra a prime destination for haulers looking to offload raw materials and leave with goods. Recently, Castra's government has pushed to increase tourism to the system in an attempt to diversify their industries. The system has been vital to the UEE, but not in many of the normal ways. When the military pathfinders discovered the system, they found a pair of planets circling a large blue-white star. It was described as unremarkable in its initial assessment. Regardless, the UPE began to process the second planet to act as a training facility and backup resource cache for the Hadrian system. So, sounds like there's actually a lot going on in the Castra system. Even though it only has really 2 planets, one of which having a landing zone on it, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of businesses that want to be involved. There's a lot of traffic that moves through it. And like they mentioned in the lore earlier when talking about Stanton to Castra being an important point of trade, you would have to go through Pyro to make that route. So it makes a lot of sense if they want to continue to build on the gameplay we have going on, keep with the lore, and continue this small cluster of planets, of systems that they're building out here. Castra makes a lot of sense. Connected to Stanton, connected to Nyx, connected to Pyro, runs a line from Pyro or from Nyx through Pyro to Stanton. Castra through Pyro to Stanton. You get a nice little web of interconnected systems where there's 1, 2, 3 multiple. I mean, this is a circle on its own. Throw in Stanton, and you've got a couple other circles, which is where we're going to go next. We don't have any footage for Terra of what they've been working on. The only thing that we have is some early work in progress stuff from like 2015, which was what they were building for Terra back before we were going to have planets. This was basically all with the 2013, I'm sorry. None of this will be used. All of this was made during the time period when we were supposed to have just landing zones and nothing else. You can get the vibe, though, of what they're going for. It looks like Coruscant, to be honest. Got the ships flying around and giving it that big city vibe. You've got tall buildings and all that kind of stuff. The best that we have when it comes to Terra is concept art. See if I can pull some of that up for you. So here's Terra Prime, the main landing zone on that planet. It's very Earth-like in the geology. Here's another shot of it. You can see a lot of water. Huge contrast between massive buildings and very small ones. I'm not going to be the one that talks about the realism of that, because I don't really care. But I can imagine that's not actually how the cities will look. Maybe. Here's another shot of it from pretty far away. Again, concept art. But you can see there's plenty of undeveloped land here on Terra. They've done a better job of that than ArcCorp. And Terra is actually considered by many to be the center of humanity. So whenever this comes in, this could end up being the actual center of the game. This could be where they say, hey, newcomers start in Terra. It's really safe. There's a lot of stuff to do there. There's a lot going on. That's where you're going to be, which would be cool. But there's a lot of concept art for Terra. We've got interiors of buildings. We've got walkways. We've got potential shipyards. We've got auditoriums. We've got landing areas, other building interiors, different views, different areas of the city, the blocks, more of the ghetto kind of area. All kinds of shots of Terra. So this is another place where they have a lot of content to work off of, but it's also going to be a massive undertaking because it's a big planet. The system itself, where were we? The system itself is actually very busy too. On top of it having the planet that's like the center of humanity for a lot of people, you've also got like 4 other planets, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got 4 planets in total. Gen, Pike, Arrow, and Terra. If they're all named, you know they're about to all be popular. But all of them have some kind of a landing zone or space station or moon or something else besides just the planet. So this is going to be a thick system to make. It's got an asteroid belt also. And I believe Terra's got 2 space stations in orbit. Pretty wild. And I think it might also have... No, it's got 1 landing zone. Prime. Oh, was that not Terra? That was green. Wait, isn't green in Ellis? Wait, which one was green? That's actually... That's interesting. I didn't think we had any pictures of Ellis. The green planet was green. Huh. Oh, this one. Well, that's good to know. I will, I'll change that up. I didn't know we had any concepts from Ellis. Makes sense why there's not much green going on in the rest of the... in the rest of these pictures. The only other sign we've had of any Terra development, this is one that honestly I have not been able to... Ooh, I forgot I have that. Hold on a second. I forgot I have that new website. Let's see if we can find this. Nope, can't find it. Oh well, sorry. But yeah, they showed us some concept art for armor they were working on for Terra. So at the very least, we do know that they're considering it design-wise. But we have no idea whether or not they've started production on it. Most likely they haven't. So... that's Terra, and that's kind of the last, I think, possibility for the 5th system, but I do think it's between Castra and Terra. There's actually one more that I'll mention here, but before we do that, let's look at the lore of Terra, because there's a lot. Terra is the only system in the United Earth Empire that is named after the capital planet, rather than the star. Since the discovery and subsequent exploration of the system in 2516, Terra has grown consistently in both popularity and influence. Even during the Meso era, Terra was one of the few systems that tried to maintain a progressive stance against the despotic reign. It was with this perseverance in the face of adversity that elevated it to be almost synonymous with Earth as the center of power in the UEE. Boom. And by progressive stance, they mean that he just legalized maize so that everybody could be a little more chill. The Terra system, then designated 34-2A, was first charted in 2516, when the first long-distance magnetic relay images of the system's 3rd planet resolved. The Explorer crew immediately knew they had hit it big. A natural super-Earth located squarely in the star's green band, Terra 3 was immediately recognizable for its astounding similarity to an untouched Earth. Lush, verdant, and brimming with natural resources, Terra's colonization was immediately obvious. Within 2 years, no fewer than 7 colonial slow ships had been dispatched to the world. Astrophysicists soon staked their own claim with a startling discovery. Terra's system's unique location and makeup meant that it was a strong jump point hub, like Sol. Terra is a G-star, G-type main sequence star. Unlike Sol, its outer planetary system never formed. Without the mass diffusion caused by gas giants, and with the star's location in the center of a dense stellar cluster, extremely stable jump points arose easily. Thus far, 5 jump points have been charted, and scientists believe that a 6th is almost a certainty. There you go. They put it right in the lore for the explorers out there. Exobiologists too had an early interest in the system. Massive stone ruins clearly indicative of intelligent life were discovered on Terra's 3's southern continental mass. More exploration potential. No other evidence of this ancient civilization has yet been uncovered on the planet, creating one of the most debated archaeological mysteries of our time. Terra 3 was the 12th planet colonized by the United Empire of Earth. In 4 centuries, owing to its jump network and location, it has evolved into a massive trade hub. Kiel, Baker, Killian, and other named systems are short hops from the star. The world's plentiful resources, cultivated carefully so as not to impact the environment, have fueled the Empire's eastern expansion program. So this is a really important place. Clearly there's going to be a lot of opportunities here, from exploration to mining, it sounds like, to cargo hauling. I'm sure bounty hunting will be a thing, as we'll have a couple of pirates and criminals here. But this also is really a great spot for newcomers. And I think this is going to be where they start the game out. I think Terra will end up being the beginner's system. It's small. It's small at only 12 AU. It has 3 planets, all with breathable, visitable atmospheres. It has a ton of security because it's the center of humanity. It has a ton of jump points, so you can make a good choice as to where you want to go afterwards. And there's just so much going on here. This seems like the really obvious choice for a starting system, so I hope that's what they do. It's only one jump from Stanton. Makes a lot of sense. All right, so I did say that there was one other system that I think we could see in the first 5. Just a possibility. It's not a for sure thing. But if you look at the jump points from Stanton, they do go to another system. There are 3 jump points. Pyro, which we've talked about. Terra, which we just looked at. And this little guy over here, Magnus, which is also connected to Terra. So Magnus could be a top 7 system because Terra could be in the top 6. But it's not really too much way of knowing. There are no signs that Magnus is something they're interested in or that they want to build or they need to build, but it is a pretty nice middle of the line system in terms of investment into the system that they would have to do. It also leads to Ellis, and I really, really want Ellis. But if we jump into Magnus, you can see that there are 3 planets, 3 jump points, 3 planets. And you've got some planets on the green band here. So you got Magnus 1 right inside the green band, and you've got Borea, which is sitting inside of the green band. And Borea is a very important planet. It's really the center of opportunity and activity in this system. In fact, if we look at the people thing, you can see that most of them are here in Borea. Economy-wise, again, mostly in Borea. And crime, a little bit at Borea, but it kind of spreads between the 2 planets. And of course, this 3rd one out here. It's actually a lot of crime right here. So a lot of it is going to be centralized around this planet, which is key because that planet is actually the home of, us. It's the home of GII, my own organization. Hello, nice to meet you. I'm a GII rep. I'll get you signed up immediately. And we are also looking at, there it is. We're also looking at the home of Drake. Drake Interplanetary moved into Magnus not too long ago. I believe 29 like 30 something, 29 20 something. I don't know if they even have the lore here. No, it was definitely before this century actually, but it doesn't say. Weird. Well, anyways, Borea has some interesting lore. It's been through a lot of crap. And ultimately, there's been a lot of piracy and criminality in the Magnus system because of how much crap it's gone through, because the UEE used to be there and then they pulled out and moved their facilities elsewhere, so criminals moved in. Same story as every other system, right? But Magnus was saved because Drake Interplanetary moved in and started to build all their ships there. So it's kind of during the time that we're playing in the game, Magnus is like an up-and-coming system. It's a place that's supposed to have more opportunity, more places for you to slide in and get some good chances at stuff you wouldn't find in a populated place like Terra or Stanton. But it's also supposed to be kind of on the edge of danger. You know, maybe you want to be more of a pirate type. Maybe you want to be more of a mercenary type. Just sit on the line of the law, that kind of stuff. So Magnus is another good system that reminds me of Nyx in that it is middle of the line in terms of lawlessness. It's got connections to important systems. There's not too much going on in it. Just 3 planets with only one of them having a landing zone. And it has a very important home base, which is Drake Interplanetary. So this could be another great system for us to see. I lean more away from it being in the first 5 just because of some of the other things we mentioned and the progress we've been able to see on other systems, but it's possible we could see it at least in the first like 7 or 8 systems. Besides that, I don't really have any other clear guesses. It's really all up in the air at that point. I think that we can rest assured. Okay, not rest assured. Rest on Tomato's word that we'll be seeing the Stanton system, of course, the Pyro system, of course, Nyx, Odin, And then I would say the kind of toss up, the grab bag are Castra, Terra, and Magnus, with Castra being the most likely. But that's our first 5 systems. That's the options that we have going past those first 5, and from there is no knowing. But I don't think it's going to be 20 years until we have an enjoyable game. I think 3 to 5 systems, honestly, in this game is going to be something very exciting to play in. And I'm down for it. I have no problem with this game falling short of 100 systems. It's like not even in my... I care about that as much as I care about them continuing to release ships. I love ships. Ships are cool. Ships make the game fun. But I care about the game systems, the game features, and the interesting small points of interest they can make. So if they can continue to build those 3 things with 5 systems, I'm happy. But I'm also very interested to see where they go from here. But that's it. That's my spiel. That's my rant. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this was informative in some way. And I'm going to definitely do more streams like this where we go over something that's kind of set in stone so that we can do a good review of it. But I enjoyed this. I hope you did too. If you're watching this as a video online, please leave a comment about what you thought. And y'all who are here on the stream, well, thank you so much for being here. I hope you had a good time. Got a little bit of live conversation in with it. My toes in my words. Count on them.